fellow citizens, there is one thought I want you always to bear in mind, and that is that you are Filipinos, that the Philippines...
The proclamation of martial law is not a military takeover.
I was anxious to protect my vote, and during that time, had conversations with many people.
President will motion ito eh.
Leadership, aside from character, is you show up in the most difficult times. Pag hindi ka mag-show up in the most difficult times, hindi ka leader.
Imperial Manila. The term came from an article about the two cases heard by the Supreme Court. Gabriel versus Provincial Board of Pampanga and Luta versus Municipality of Zamboanga. Both were concerned about the local government autonomy. It was also used during the People's Power Revolution by those that lived outside of Manila when the then President Ferdinand Marcos was toppled without the participation of Filipinos outside of the capital. The capital of the Philippines, overcongested, overpopulated, and completely centralized. It serves as the undisputed political, economical, and cultural center of the nation. Manila, or the National Capital Region, generates over a third of the country's gross domestic product. Massive portions of national wealth, corporate headquarters, and major infrastructure in the capital leave the many provincial areas underdeveloped. Even when the passage of the Local Government Code of 1991 meant to grant the regions autonomy, the central government in Manila retains ultimate authority over budgets, income, and spending. But how did it become this way, and how did it cause a constant rift between the provinces and capital so much that it even went to a push for a federalized Philippines? But, for a quick game show, when do you think all of this started? Is it A, the Marcos era, B, the pre-power split revolution era, or C, the colonial era? I'll give you 3 seconds. Did you choose C? Well, great, because it's the only right answer. It always is. As most Filipino system stories start, it begins from the colonial era. 1700 Spain. The Bajo de las Campanas system, when the Spanish arrived the Philippines, was a decentralized network of thriving maritime trading hubs. When the Spanish Empire needed to control the islands, they had created a radical centralization policy called Reducción. They forced many regional populations to move to a more centralized area, creating an easier way to rule the populace. When the Spanish arrived, the Philippines was a decentralized network of thriving maritime trading hubs. When the Spanish Empire needed to control the islands, they had created a radical centralization policy called Reducción. They forced regional populations to move to a more centralized area, creating an easier way to rule the populace. Because of this, the growing power of the Manila galleon trade soon forced many of the other regional ports to shut down. As if a farmer wanted to export their own goods, it had to flow through Manila first. 1900s, the Americans. When the Americans took over, they replaced military rule with the corporate and civil infrastructure, but kept the same centralized structure. The Americans built the country's primary transport networks, primarily the Manila Railroad Company, to connect the agricultural fields of Central and Northern Luzon directly to Manila's ports. And instead of creating regional hubs that allow itself to connect to other regional cities, instead they had made Manila the hub and made the provinces spokes, merely designed to feed it raw materials. In the 1950s, shortly after the Philippines gained its independence, the founding fathers of the nation adopted a unitary system government instead of a federal one, in contrast to the United States. This is what exactly locked the centralization of the nation. Because of this, when a factory or plantation operated outside of the capital, it wasn't paid locally, but instead directly to Manila's coffers. This in turn left little revenue for the provinces. This created an effect where Manila could collect a huge wealth and keep most of it, and then redistribute what little was left to other provinces. Because of this, provincial governors had to travel to Manila and beg for the central budget department to fund local roads and infrastructure. Because of this, when Manila hoards the capital, it creates better jobs or universities, creating a brain drain in local provinces. Corporations move to Manila, Manila hoards more capitals, rinse and repeat. Think of it this way. When a farmer in Bulacan reaps their harvest, sells it off and pays tax, where do you think that fund goes? Is it A, the local government? No, it's Manila. It's Manila. Local provinces lack even an appropriate transport system, proper road infrastructure, sophisticated networks of electricity, and even basic flood control necessities, whilst Manila is reaping the profit of these provinces. And what makes it worse is that Manila imports things that aren't even necessary. A recent example is the onion imports, where the local farmers already produce onions, but for whatever reason, Manila or the Department of Agriculture and its Bureau of Plant Industry, which sabotages our own onion produce, and they couldn't judge the appropriate volume of onions to import and only tanked the value of the local crops while traders hoard local stock to further manipulate said prices. Another example is what Doronila has said earlier. The lack of a need for the province's assistance further cements itself as the inevitable truth. Because of these, there comes a rift between the capital and the provinces, where those that live in the capital most often or not look down on those that live in the province. It is a systematic issue, not necessarily a personal phenomenon. It also creates a sense of inferiority to which, in comparison to Manila's prospering city skylines, provinces don't even get a proper road at times. Imperial Manila is not only an issue that was made up today, but was systematically built. The same goes for almost every issue that the nation faces today, because of colonizers and because of our past. But the only way to actually fix this is to not only overhaul the nation's constitution, but also constitute appropriate clauses within the law. Because those loopholes will only continue to tear the remaining Filipinos willing to stay and fix this. Because right now, because of the constant brain drain of the provinces, Filipinos that live in the capital tend to now go overseas as well, only making a further brain drain in which a system that builds this further digs its own hole. We fail to recognize that in our constant bickering and arguments as Filipinos, we continue to ignore the hole we're sinking in. And because of that, we might soon not be able to get out of it. Our system is vulnerable to both domestic and foreign threats, notably amongst ourselves, and if we continue to fail each chance we get redemption, then soon the nation will ultimately face its impending doom. But I believe there's a light at the end of this tunnel. A system always decays, and it cannot last forever. And I hope that maybe this time, this generation, not break the system, but help tear it down with the next generation. I don't necessarily believe that the system will decay by this year, next year, or a few decades. I do believe that one day we will be able to break the system and eventually live in a system where everyone gets an equal right, equal living, and proper house deeds. But as of now, the system cannot provide us with that, and we have to suffer through it. And even if we may want change, there are external factors that do not allow it, such as conglomerates that want to keep their positions, families that don't want to further lose control of the nation. Because if one thing, my generation has this very overwhelming guilt and the need to change what's in the system today. I'm not degrading other generations, but what I'm saying is that eventually there will come a time where people will need to stand up and be the leader for that nation. And my generation will soon reach that point. Right now, we're led by the past generations, such as the boomers, the millennials, and they're beginning to show their age. But again, everything in this nation is about age. Age is respected, regardless of what you have done. But I don't necessarily believe in that, since I'm very progressive. I believe that respect is meant to be earned. But in due diligence, I believe that this nation will soon be able to lift out of what we are in today. Because this nation is one of the most luckiest nations that I can tell. Unlike those from Africa that lack proper food, resources to even function properly, such as Somalia, constantly facing wars, we're in this lucky position where we're in the between, where we can also help ourselves. I'm not degrading African nations, but what I'm saying is we're better off right now, and I do hope that in time our position will only get better.